Hi everyone. I know it's been a while, but welcome back, you guys. Hi Pratik. Hi everyone. So today's gonna be a fun episode. We're gonna have one of the most kind of well-known, one of the most famous sports news anchors who's a part of Aaj Tak, Vikrant Gupta. He's gonna be joining me today. So I know, a lot of you guys are also kind of aspiring into sports, getting into the field. So I'm just gonna wait for him to join. He just messaged. So we're just gonna have him join. I'm doing well. How is everyone? Okay. I see that he's here. Let me add him. Hello.
Hi, Roshni. How have
How
you
are
been?
you?
Very
I've
good,
been
very
good.
good.
I've been good. How have you
You've been
been?
waiting for this Sunday for a long time now.
I know. But yeah, before we start, I want to tell everyone, that I met you last year during the Cricket World Cup. It's been like, a little bit over a year since we met, at the Salam Cricket Festival,
I
thanks
think
to
just
Kiran
just a
Morrison.
week over
Yeah,
a
just
year
a week
now.
over a year now. Yeah. So, I was so fortunate that Kiran Moy uncle had introduced me to you, and because of you also, I got to attend that Salam Cricket Festival, which was like a dream
How
come
was the
true.
experience then?
That was amazing experience. I mean, that, just because growing up in America, I feel like I've always been so distanced with cricket, so that's always there. And obviously, my whole World Cup experience was like a dream come true, getting to meet all the legends won during that event, getting to
Hmm.
see everyone, hear them talk about their stories. Like, I think I was in shock the whole time. Like,
And
I just,
Ranveer Singh was there
yeah, and that
as well.
coming out of nowhere, definitely,
Yeah.
because I'm waiting for that movie to come out, the 83 film. So hopefully that happens, but because of the COVID, that got pushed back as well. But
Yeah, I think it's in November now. That's in November now.
yeah,
We'll have to wait
yeah,
a little longer for that.
exactly. But
So
yeah,
how
no,
have you been, Roshni? How have you kept your touch with cricket, and what's the scene in the US right now?
yeah. So I mean, I've been, keeping in touch. I mean, during this COVID, especially fortunate enough to be able to do interviews like that. Otherwise, I would have been in India, hopefully with IPL. That was my plan for this, this year. But that didn't work out. But I think, because it didn't work out, I got even more opportunities to do things. And, we will talk a little bit about cricket in the US,
Well, the
in our
IPL might
conversation.
happen. The
Yeah,
IPL,
yeah.
what you'll have to, I don't know if you'd be able to travel or not,
That's the
but
only thing. I don't know if, if India
October
will have,
is the
yeah.
tentative date.
Exactly. So I think it
Yes,
just depends on all the borders, even, with Australia matches going on, going anywhere. I think it depends on the restrictions that the countries have.
exactly.
So that is, definitely that's something that's going to be there. Yeah.
I think the first year from now on that any sport that we see, I don't think we'll have crowds. And
Yeah.
even for the media, I don't know how much of the media would also be wanting to travel because you're also facing a 14-day quarantine to any other
Exactly.
country that you travel to. Let's say
Yeah.
hypothetically, if India go to Australia, and if I decide to go as well, so 14 days you've just got to quarantine at a hotel,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
looks, a little off track right now. And hopefully, with the England series starting next month, cricket should be back.
Yeah, I mean, this summer you'll get to find out, what is going to be the scope of cricket for the future, at least for the next year, maybe even two, with, dealing with all this. So definitely that is something that's going to be there. But now, if we talk about, in the beginning with your journey, what was it that actually made you want to study English? I know before there was something that you wanted to become a cricketer, but what was the reason why you were also studying English, in the beginning? Was this always a backup
What
or?
it was just a backup.
Okay,
Honestly, graduation just came and went.
yeah,
I was just playing, and incidentally, you had to go to the university. And going to the university, I chose to do masters in English. That was also because I wanted 2 more years for my cricket.
yeah,
Going to the university would have also meant that I could continue playing for 2 extra years.
yeah,
And incidentally, even though I can say that I'm a master's in English, but I barely passed both the years. I think in terms of the marks, I would have been a very lowly third division.
Hmm.
But not just the English masters. I think the change in my life happened when I did mass communication. So I
Mass
did this after the
communication. Yeah.
masters,
Yeah.
and that was very incidental. I just went with a friend, bought a form,
Yeah.
applied, sat through the test, forgot about it. One day I got a call, and I think my life changed.
Yeah, definitely. And like, what was the one reason why you thought, maybe cricket में कोई scope नहीं है? Because I think, these days, I mean, some people don't want to realize it sometimes. Obviously you have to give it your all if that's what you want to do,
See, these
but
are
you always,
different times,
yeah,
Roshni. These are different times. I mean, in 2020, you've got 1,000 options for youngsters. You've got the IPL, you've got this, you've got that. There's so much of media presence. The social media is there.
yeah,
In our
yeah,
times, I'm talking about 95, 96, when I was just 23, and uh, for any aspiring cricketer at that period of time, you would want to play for your state. So
yeah,
I had played the age groups. I'd played all the age groups, and then the next big one, of course, was the Ranji Trophy.
yeah,
So Punjab was a fairly strong team at that time. Obviously, I wasn't good enough. I could
okay,
not get into the team. I could not play any game. And there comes a moment when everybody realizes this is it. You
yeah,
see it, you don't see it, you become an ostrich, you accept it, you don't accept it, but you know this is happening.
yeah,
And it wasn't as if, I decided one day, okay, I'll not play cricket, but I'll do this. That
hmm.
also didn't happen. I knew that
Yeah,
my game
you
was
knew.
over, but at the same time, I wasn't very sure about what I'm going to do. As I said, I was into my second year of the MA English, and incidentally, mass communication, Roshni was a department right next to the building where we were studying in MA.
Yeah,
So the very next block. And I think that was a big factor. One of my friends said, "Oh, I want to apply." I went along. I applied as well as I said, and once I joined that department, mass communication department, subconsciously I started realizing that this is going to be my life now.
okay,
I did not know that I'll become a cricket journalist. I didn't want to
okay,
because I was slightly bitter uh, once I left the game. I was slightly bitter, which
okay,
was very natural.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but uh, while I was doing my internship with the Indian Express, it's a major newspaper in India.
yeah,
I wrote on cricket, and they liked it. So
okay,
they said, once you complete your course, you join us. I was with them for about 6 years. In fact, my early small steps in cricket journalism were with the Indian Express. Shekhar Gupta was the editor in chief at that time, and he encouraged youngsters.
yeah,
Aaj Tak just happened. I never wanted to do television, to be very honest. And, I had been dilly dallying for about 6, 7 months. This was around 2002, summers of 2002. It just happened. I came, I met the editor, I went back,
yeah,
and I joined about 15, 20 days. I joined the India Today group on 2nd of January 2003. I think barely a month after that, we had the World Cup in South Africa. I wasn't very sure if I could continue doing television after the World Cup because
okay,
coming from a newspaper, working in a news channel, it's an entirely different
yeah,
environment.
it's very different. Yeah,
In a newspaper, you are on your own. You're like a singles tennis player.
huh,
Now, I can do whatever I want and I can do at my own pace. Once you are in television, you got a camera person, you got deadlines to meet. And it took me time to realize the importance of that. It's just that the World Cup in South Africa, the Indians were doing very well. They reached the
hmm,
finals as well. So it was a tough apprenticeship for me. But a few months after that, I realized that once you start working in television and the kind of exposure that you get,
yeah,
the kind of addiction that you have, it becomes difficult. And I'm
yeah,
lucky in the sense that my second job. I mean, both the companies that I've worked for are not just huge in terms of the numbers, but they're also very good in terms of the employees. So both Indian Express and now the India Today Group, they've taken care of the employees. They have that work culture, they have the work ethics, and it's always good to learn and keep evolving, Roshni. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you met me last year at the Lords,
yeah,
where we had Salam Cricket. I mean, if you just go through the roll cast of the people that we have that day at the
yeah,
Lords for a
yeah,
news channel, I mean,
Yeah,
even sports channels did not have that kind of lineup. We had
exactly.
11 World Cup champions
Exactly.
under the same roof on one
Yeah,
single day. So
yeah.
that is the way this organization has worked, and it's a good fortune for me that I've been part of that journey.
Yeah. So do you remember, the first few days, when you were kind of getting ready for, being in front of a camera, what were the difficulties you faced?
I was
Going
very
from that.
stiff. I was very stiff, and since I come from a Punjabi family, I knew how to speak in Hindi, not just because I obviously North India, in urban North India, you know how to speak in Hindi, but my Hindi had that typical Punjabi accent,
Oh,
and I was very stiff. Uh, I think not just the first few days, if I'm not mistaken, the first 1 year, I
okay.
was very stiff in front of the
Yeah,
camera.
yeah,
But then gradually you learn. I mean, look at
yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
You started doing your cricket things, it's been a year, and
yeah,
just see the change that you've seen
yeah,
in yourself.
yeah,
Try and
for
compare
sure.
what you were 6 months back or 4 months back, and you'll see that you're improving every day. So
Exactly.
when I look at my tapes of, say, last year or the year before, I realize that I'm trying to improve even more.
Yeah,
And television can be very cruel. Television can also be the most friendly thing that can happen to you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And like usually, so if we talk about, the preparation that goes on, tell us a little bit about, the preparation you have to do for any show that's there.
Well, if I were to say that I don't prepare at all, people would be surprised. But
I
I
mean, I
keep
guess
my
at this
preparation.
point, it probably is, easier for you where you don't have to prepare as much
No,
maybe you did
nobody
before.
can. No, nobody can take anything for granted. It'll be very interesting for you to know, Roshni, that on the last day of his international career, the great Sachin Tendulkar was among the first ones at the India team nets. He knew, and all of us knew, that India were not going to get a second chance. So
Yeah,
there was no chance that Sachin would have batted that day. He still went to the nets, batted for an hour, and India won. He
yeah,
didn't get a chance to bat. So one day after his retirement, I asked him this question: why did you spend an hour at the nets? He said, "Oh, I wanted to, ensure that I was fine." I said, "Come on, one missed net won't have made a difference."
yeah,
And
yeah,
you also knew that maybe the second innings won't happen. He said, "What if?" But I said, "You're the master." He said, "No. For 24 years, every day I keep learning something." So if I were to say, Roshni, that I don't prepare at all, I don't know how people will take it. Uh, Preparation is different for every person.
yeah, yeah,
It could be rehearsing your lines, which of course I don't do. I can't do, because the moment you start doing that, you won't be spontaneous.
yeah,
But you also need to know the pulse of the issues that you're speaking about.
yeah,
You also need to know now the pulse of the people who are watching you.
yeah,
Because I might want to say something, but you may not want to hear that. So that is also very important.
yeah. No, definitely. Now, what have been some difficult times, with, that you've maybe faced just with the media or anything, um, that you still remember, any moment that was kind of difficult or something, that happened where maybe you were prepared, but maybe it might be in your, when you were younger, where you faced
They've
any
been many.
challenges.
They've been many. The glass is more than half full, but it's also been half empty. So there've been many hits and misses. There've
Okay.
been many fiascos. There've been
Uh,
many situations where, looking back, I realized I could have done better.
okay.
I won't say in terms of having missed the stories or interviews. People judge journalists on the basis of interviews that they do, on the basis of stories that they break.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, a journalist or uh, whatever, a commentator in one walk of life should also know, should also be able to tell the story in a manner that interests the viewer.
Yeah.
So, I've had many bad days. Look at Sachin Tendulkar again. That man had what, 100 international centuries?
Hmm.
And if you look at the number of innings that he played in, so he had 600 international innings and he scored 100 centuries, which means that 500 times when Sachin Tendulkar went out to bat, he did not get a century.
Yeah.
So I I would have also failed at times.
Yeah.
I would have also learned from failures at times. I can't pick any one, but I think the most difficult assignment for me was the 2007 World Cup, which happened
Mm.
in West Indies.
Yeah.
Nobody knew then that India would lose to Bangladesh.
Hmm.
They did beat Bermuda, but they could not chase down the 240 odd runs that they needed to beat Sri Lanka in the last game. If India had scored those runs, they would have still, made it to the second rounds. They failed. And one day before that, Bob Woolmer had died, the Pakistan coach. So that time they said it was heart attack. Then they said it was match fixing. So those moments were the most difficult in my life. Getting through
Yeah.
the fact that Bob Woolmer had died, getting through the fact that India are out of the World Cup within the
Hmm.
first 5 days.
Yeah.
And then I had to stay on throughout the World Cup,
Yeah.
the entirety of the World Cup. So that was, I think, one of the most difficult phases that I would have faced in my life,
Yeah.
in my professional life.
Yeah. Definitely.
The last year's
Yeah.
World Cup defeat was no less, to be very honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember that. I was there at that semifinals. So
It was
I
shocking.
I know. I mean, so what if since you mentioned it, so the first day, right? I remember, watching it and it was going well, for India. I mean, in the sense where, we definitely had the upper hand and then the rain fell. So at that point, I remember I stayed there for like, a good amount of time and then I realized that this match is not going on. So I decided, go back to the hotel and if something happens, I will come back. But, match was called off. And then the next day, so tell me about kind of
Were you
really.
were you were you there the
Yeah.
next morning?
Yes, yes, I was. I mean, obviously, I wasn't gonna miss
I
it.
think,
That was not something
see,
I was gonna
everything
miss.
is, see, Roshni, what happens is, uh, you know, there are always two sides to the same story.
Yeah,
We would say that we had those disastrous 30 minutes, and those 30 minutes shook the nation. We lost the World Cup
yeah, yeah,
semi-final.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Also, look at the New Zealanders. You know, they created those 30 minutes. They deserve to win.
yeah,
Just
for sure.
compare the 1983 victory to this thing. I
Yeah,
mean, have you heard the West Indians saying ever that, oh, we just had a disastrous 30 minutes in that final? No.
yeah,
It's always the India story that you're buying.
yeah,
We
yeah,
got Viv
yeah, yeah.
Richards and we've
Yeah.
got him and
No,
we've got
that
that,
is
and then the World Cup was
exactly,
ours.
exactly.
So I think
I think New
any
Zealand, I
team,
mean, watching it,
any
it
team that
definitely was
plays
New
well,
Zealand's game.
any
Yeah,
team that
yeah,
plays well on a particular day deserves to win,
yeah,
and any team that doesn't turn out well on a
yeah,
particular day will lose. It's simple as that.
yeah.
You know,
Like,
you can't hide behind the bushes and say
exactly.
we just had bad 30 minutes. Were the Indians prepared? I'll tell you a story again, difficult one for people to digest. India won the game in Headingley on the 6th, which was the last league game against Sri Lanka,
Yeah,
right?
yep, I was
And
there too.
then till the time we had our game on, obviously we were to finish second in the group, in the pool, and we were to travel to Birmingham to play England in the in the second semi-final.
Yeah,
But once we reached the hotel and the day-night game that was on, Australia lost to South Africa. So the moment Australia lost to South Africa,
the whole thing switched.
it switched. So it became India versus New Zealand in Manchester
Yeah,
on the 9th.
yeah, nice.
So 7th we traveled from Headingley to Manchester, which was just a 1 hour drive.
Hmm.
And on the travel day, you don't practice. So 8th was the preview day where the Indians had their nets. And it was the
Hmm.
big semi-final.
Yeah,
It was against New Zealand, a side which started very well in the World Cup, had also beaten India in the league in the practice game, but a side which was dipping.
yeah,
So in tournaments like the World Cup, we say that for any side to win, you got to peak at the right moment. So
yeah,
we knew New Zealand were a pushover. We'll beat New
yeah,
Zealand.
yeah, yeah,
New Zealand were dipping and this and that. And maybe there was also this sense of complacency. I won't say there must have been, but could have been a sense of complacency in the players also. That New Zealand relatively were the easiest among the four.
Mm-hmm.
So on the preview day, you will be surprised, Roshni, that the Indians had an optional nets. So a majority of the batsmen did not turn out for the nets. They knew that Trent Bolt was a threat. and he's a left-arm medium pacer. So, you know, just for a batsman to get used to that line, that angle, maybe not practice much, maybe play 10, 12 deliveries in the nets, and you know that you're good to go.
Mhm.
On the first day, of course, India bowled very well. And if the game had continued that day, I'm sure India would have won.
Yeah.
There was also a situation, if you remember, Roshni, where they said that since much of the time had been used
Yeah.
up,
That maybe it would.
so they were looking at a 2020 game also, where India were
Yeah.
to bat for 20 overs. Now, if that game had happened, India would have still won.
Yeah.
India would have chased those 130, 140 odd runs in
Yeah.
20 overs because that was their day.
Hmm.
And I remember running into Sachin Tendulkar that very evening because if you remember, we used to do a show with him every game.
Yep.
And Sachin also had to then stay back in Manchester. So he said, oh, of course, we'll now do the show tomorrow. But then he was the first one to say, I said, oh, it's going to be an easy game. He said, no, it's not a good wicket to bat on. It's a two-paced wicket. And New Zealand have got Mitchell Santner. He did speak about the fast bowlers. He said they've got Mitchell Santner, the left-arm spinner. He said, it won't be so easy. Of course, at the ground, 11 o'clock, I think the India innings started. We all knew it was going to be a cakewalk.
Yeah.
But again, those 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So now you look back and say, why those disastrous 30 minutes? The New Zealanders would say we deserve to win
Yeah.
because we used those 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But India did not come out of that depression for months together.
Yeah. No, I mean,
It
if I
was very unexpected.
exactly, if I look at myself, I remember 2015 semifinals, I was so upset. Like I literally cried the whole night after, India lost against Australia. And the way
But
I've
that was
grown
on
as
the
a
expected
person,
lines, Roshni.
huh?
That was
But I'm saying
expected,
I've
you
grown
know?
as a person to
Yeah.
realize, the importance of a match where after this defeat, I wasn't as upset. I was upset for a bit, but I appreciate the cricket and New Zealand deserved to win that. But the thing is, when you look at the squad, the Indian team squad, would you say they had a good enough squad? That's it. I mean, you see, they won against all the matches. They only lost against England. And the thing was that the top order batsmen were the ones who were scoring most of the runs. So when you knock them out, in that first moment, in the first few overs, at that point India is almost done for. It was just that Jadeja gave
You
so
know,
much
that's the
hope,
problem. That's the
but that
problem
is
with the
one
knockout
thing.
games. The
Yeah,
knockout games become more like Russian roulette.
yeah,
One slip, you're gone. And if, let's say, hypothetically, it were a league game, India might have lost those 4 wickets and still won the game because this fear of failure was
yeah,
hanging around the Indian dressing room. You could
yeah,
see that in their game
yeah,
plan.
yeah,
I think sending Dhoni to bat at number 7 was a very bad call. Ravi
yeah.
Shastri, in an interview later on, said that it could have been a master stroke and this and that. In the end, it didn't turn out to be a master stroke.
Yeah, yeah,
In the end, you lost.
yeah.
So hindsight
And the one thing
makes
was
life
we
easier.
didn't play against New Zealand because that match got rained out. So for some
Yeah,
reason, I had this thing that this match was not going to be easy, because we didn't
yeah,
play against them in the league matches. They did win,
exactly.
in the
Trent
just the
Bridge.
warm-up
It
match,
rained off. It was rained
but
off.
that was rained off, So I remember being there and,
Yeah.
being so upset that that match didn't happen. But I had a feeling, the semis was not going to be easy
But
because
then
that
tell me
match
one
didn't
thing, Roshni.
happen.
What made you fall in love with the game? Because I remember uh, when we met at the lodge, and you said,
Yeah,
you know, you loved cricket and this and that. But I think it was the first time you were
yeah,
probably going to the grounds.
exactly.
And
So,
in 12 months, you've been to almost everywhere that the Indians have been to: New
almost,
Zealand,
yeah.
the US, Caribbean. So why this mad love about the game?
So, I mean, for me, I think, obviously my parents are from India. I was born and raised here, but my parents are from India. They were born and raised in India. And I think at a younger age, I actually got introduced to cricket because of Bollywood movies. I was always a sports. I love sports, so it's something that, growing up, I was always into kind of sports. And I thought, okay, cricket is something different. Why aren't people in America playing it? Why does no
Hmm.
one know about it? And for me, I think I always get intrigued by things that are different. So मैं जब पहली बार इंडिया गई थी, I was 8 years old. So I remember in front of my grandparents' house every day, everyone would play cricket. वो सामने ही था. So I would sometimes go on the terrace या window के बाहर, I would see them play. And I don't know, I thought it was like a really interesting, really complicated sport to play. And I
Hmm.
think fascination kept growing. And then once, here we started having matches on TV as well. I mean, you would have to buy a subscription, but parents had that. So then I would start watching. And then once, I was off on my own, I think definitely in high school when I had my own phone, then that is when I started following more. Especially at that time, it was more the Indian team. Abhi, I follow, many other teams as well. But I think when I had my own phone, I downloaded CrickBuzz and I would follow cricket, during school or during matches. I know 2011 World Cup mein, during school I would, keep updates and stuff. Luckily, the final was on a weekend, it was on a Sunday. So I remember watching the match. But like most other matches, school mein, I would use my phone, secretly to check, kya ho raha hai and stuff. So I think it just kept growing and obviously going to World Cup and like, those kind of experiences, it just makes me kind of realize how much I do love the game and how much I want to learn about it.
So who's your favorite player internationally, not just India?
Internationally is Virat Kohli. Yeah, I think I've been a fan of him since the start. I mean, because of the times where I started watching cricket properly is when, he was also at the big stage. And I think I just, have been really fond of him even as a person. I mean, I know for you, that aggression side and everything, I'm a big fan of that. I'm also a Scorpio, so we have a lot of, traits, personality traits that are similar. So I've always been a fan of
So how
him.
many
Like,
times have you met him in the
never,
last 1 year?
never, never,
You've
never.
not met him.
Nope. I've not tried to. I wanted to be a special meeting, but nope, I haven't. I World Cup, I tried to get his autograph, but it didn't happen. And then I was like,
No,
I'm
but
not gonna
while
try.
while you were in New Zealand,
Huh.
and it's a beautiful country, we all know that.
I know, but मेरा नसीब
You
ही नहीं
could,
अच्छा है. I've never ran into him या ऐसा कुछ मतलब कि I've not
but
gotten a
in
chance.
New Zealand you could have met him anywhere
No,
at
I
the
didn't. I
practice,
tried. Nee.
during the
But even
game.
if you meet him, I mean, like, obviously I've seen him, like, up close, but getting an autograph or just taking a picture, no. Like, the Indian team
He
then
never
was
says
still,
no.
but
Virat
I
never
didn't
says
get a
no.
chance. No, I didn't get a chance. Even, like, I guess I never had a moment. Maybe if you run into him on the street, when he's just around,
Hmm.
then maybe that could have happened. But otherwise, nope, I've not gotten a chance. Even in America, both the days I did the announcements, so I did the MC for both days. But even then, staying at the same hotel, I never just ran across him, where he was just there and I could ask him. So nahi hua. So I'm hoping, one day,
नहीं, but उसमें कसूर किसका है? Who's to be blamed? You
I mean,
or him?
obviously, I think it would be me, but I think no, it's not. I don't think it's anyone. I think Bhagwan has, a special meeting planned. So I'm just waiting for that. That'll happen. That's why he's
You're
been
waiting for
keeping,
Godot, huh?
yeah, I'm waiting for like a special, moment to happen where it's not just, a bunch of, I'm not a type of person where crowds may I go to get an autograph. If I've gotten autographs, it's been more of a one-on-one thing. I met Kane Williamson like 4 times, in the past year. So I've met him, I've talked to him. So, those kind of things. I want
Hmm.
it to be like a special moment.
And among the Indians, who all have you met and interacted with?
Indian team, I mean, I've also gotten a lot of interviews. I've met, Yuzi Chahal, I've met Kuldeep Yadav. I think mostly everyone. I haven't met MS Dhoni as well, but I've met most of the Indian team. I've met Jadeja, Bhuvneshwar Kumar. Most of them I did get a
Hmm.
chance to like talk to when they were here in America because I had breakfast with them. But because Anushka also came, I think Kohli and Anushka were having their own, breakfast or having their own thing. So they weren't with the team when I went for breakfast. So I'm telling you, I'm waiting for that special moment to have because I met everyone else for the most part,
Hmm.
just not Kohli. So hopefully one day that
If this
happens.
COVID hadn't happened, I'm sure you'd have planned to go to Australia for the World T20s.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely, trying to plan and see, if I can get opportunities maybe, hopefully maybe next year's ODI Women's World Cup. So let's see, how things plan out. I mean, I think I'm just
You'll be
hopeful
cheering
for
for
something to
Mitali and
happen.
her team.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially this year, I mean, I was actually planning because I was in New Zealand, I was trying to plan to go to Australia maybe to catch the semis or the finals and stuff. But then the COVID was also getting more serious. So I was like, no, let me just come home. And it was a good thing I did because, that is when it got at its peak. Like, I remember going to New Zealand, my parents were like, don't go. At that point, it was still something is there. But I came back at the right time. So it was definitely kind of a whole different
So, what
experience.
is one big lesson that you've learned in the last 12 months regarding your love for the game? One big takeaway for you?
I mean, I think one big takeaway is that, I mean, this is for me personally that I've just been grateful for is that, I can't take everything that's happened to me for granted.
Hmm.
The types of opportunities that I've gotten, Even when I went to New Zealand, the New Zealand board gave me a media pass. They were so helpful and things like that. I got an
Only
interview
they
as
can
well.
be. Only
Yeah,
they can be.
exactly. So, I mean, getting that opportunity, one, to, be
Hmm.
able to, and I got in touch with the right people. I had emailed them a few weeks before, but no one responded. And then luckily, I got connected to the right person and stuff. And like the first day of the match, he was like, let's meet up. And then he got me a media badge and everything. And then he also set up an interview with me for my bubble tea show. So I think just the amount of stuff I've been able to do, especially even during this quarantine, I think I've just been so fortunate. So I realized, that it's something that I can't take for granted and I have to keep working harder because this was never my dream, to do something like this. I think in America, I mean, I've done things in America to help grow the game, but I never kind of was thinking about, okay, if I ever want to be on TV or if I ever want to do anything like anchoring. I think I just wanted to get closer to the game and this kind of allowed me. I think it was a lot of friends that pushed me to do this and I'm like, okay, well, let's try it out. But it's something that I've learned that, one thing is, I mean, for anything, you should never take it for granted. And it's something
That's
that you
true.
always have to keep learning
No,
about.
holds true for all of us, not just cricket,
Yeah,
for
yeah, I
all
mean,
of
it's for
us.
anything.
I mean, just look at the coronavirus. I mean,
Yeah,
look at the Western countries, look at big
yeah,
countries, even India
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Who would have imagined the entire world is down on its knees
yeah,
to one disease?
exactly. I mean, it's never happened where, you have the whole world suffering at the same time. I think that is something that it's really kind of, it's never happened before. And right now, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. What's going to happen to cricket for the next year or two, how things will be, how things can go back to normal. So there's so many uncertainties about what's going to happen. And even for me, it's just like, well, the past 2, 3 years, I've been flying on a flight every month. Whether it be, something in America, mostly in America, I mean, flying to Florida often for a cricket tournament or, the college matches that I do. So it's like I've been flying every single month for at least 2, 3 years now, and now it's been like 3 months gone by and I haven't, gone to an airport. So it's kind of like so different even for me, and I can imagine, how hard it is for, I mean, everyone else in the world, but for the cricket world as well. Whether it be for the cricketers themselves or for the media finding content to create and everything. So it's just changed up everything in the
How's your
world.
show coming along? How's your show coming along?
It's been good. I mean, luckily, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it's been really good. I mean, I've been able to get, many cricketers who have given me the fortunate chance to, take minutes away from their day and everything. So I think, it's been really good and I've been really lucky that I was able to, think of that and then, try to do that. I didn't think, I would have even been able to get this many cricketers on it, and when in the beginning I was just like, okay, I don't know, what's gonna happen and if this is even going to go through or if people are going to respond and everything. But luckily, it's been going well.
Do you
So,
also
yeah.
get to play a bit?
So I
Or,
love playing, and if it's playing as batting, I do get to chance. Like in college, I got many chances. So mere college mein we had a cricket team. So that is where
okay.
I got the most exposure in America. Like before that, I didn't even know, cricket in America existed. But
Hmm.
when I went to college, my college had a cricket team. So I, became a part of that and I would go to their practices. So I remember, they started teaching me properly. I mean, pehle to I would just, didn't even know how to hold a bat or
So
anything.
did you get to bat or do you bowl?
Bat, bat, bat. I don't,
Huh?
yeah, bowling, I'm trying to learn the concept of
Like
bowling
Virat
and
Kohli?
everything, but
You can
not even,
hit
not
those
even one
cover
percent.
drives and
But
those flick
yeah,
shots.
I've been slick, not as much, but I've been learning more. I mean, just one, obviously it's really hard, but I mean, I've been learning more to, yeah, kind of drive the ball and everything. But I love, anytime anyone is like, let me bowl to you. I mean, for me, I need a bowler. I need a bowler
Hmm.
to bowl to me for me to be able to bat. But whenever I get the chance, I love batting. Like I absolutely love batting. So I
So
mean,
what's
it's
your plan?
definitely.
What are your what's your future plan? I mean, in terms of let's say cricket, uh, what is it that you intend to do now on?
I mean, honestly, I think this is something that I want to do kind of on the side as a part-time. I don't really have, I'm still trying to explore what is there because I don't know if, maybe if I would want to be on the operations side or if I want to be on the anchoring side or, where exactly I want to be. I have to explore more to kind of see what is out there because in America, I mean, we have the cricket, but it's very different in the sense. So I did have, if we talk about, cricket in America, I think, I mean, in terms of many other associate countries, I think cricket in America will become big as we start. So this year they're planning like a minor league and soon a major league as well. So I think, we have the USA team who are playing right now for the next World Cup qualifiers. So they're doing really well as well. So I mean, let's see how it plans out with them. But I think cricket in America, like our new CEO, Ian Higgins, he was the CEO of ICC in the past. So, we have a lot more people who are kind of affiliated. Times India is also affiliated because of Willow TV. So we have a lot that's there, and I feel like it's gonna grow eventually. It's just gonna take some time. But I think if anywhere else, as soon as cricket kind of hits here, let's say if, Americans, baseball players start kind of getting introduced to cricket even, it could become really big. So, I mean, I think for me, I mean, I definitely want the sport to grow in my country. I want that match to happen when we have USA versus India.
Maybe a certain bit of the IPL happening in the
Yeah.
US as
So, I
well.
mean, that is something
There were
that's
there were
definitely.
suggestions. They were planning some mini IPL format.
So it's a minor. Yeah, the minor league should start this year, actually. They're thinking about August. And then I think a year or two down the line would be a major league. So let's see, how the minor league goes. Obviously, the major would be more of that IPL style. But I mean, that is something I think can become really big because America has, the market, it has the money as well, and it has infrastructures that they will be able to create. So I think once that happens, it can really change the game as well, but it's going to take time. I mean, right now we only have one stadium in Florida. But you can see, I mean, India has also been coming. They came in 2016, they came this year. So they've also been coming, and those match tickets get sold out within the hour or two as soon as they're
Hmm.
posted. So it's like there is a lot of cricket that's here. The more exposure they get and, more people kind of know about it, it can really, change the game and really surface compared to other associate countries for sure.
Well, that's one thing that has tied the cricketers, the Indians around the world. I mean, you
Yeah,
go to any country and you talk cricket. Obviously, people relate to
exactly.
that. Virat
Exactly.
Kohli. It used to be Sachin Tendulkar. Was Dhoni. Would have been Kapil Dev, Gavaskar in those times
Yeah,
also.
yeah.
And internationally, other than India, which is your favorite team, Roshni?
So other than India, I would say Australia, and also I've become a fan of Pakistan as well. So with their
Yeah,
cricket team recently, yeah,
Babar
I
Azam.
have, yeah, definitely a huge fan of Babar Azam for sure. So I think the way, I mean, I think even when you see their World Cup
Yeah.
campaign, I don't think you can really, take away. If you've seen, they won against New Zealand, they won against England. So I saw that match, Pakistan versus England. That was one of the matches I saw as well live. So if you look at, their team, I mean, obviously there's struggles there, but I think you can't really negate them and, call them a bad team when, they had a good World Cup campaign as well. Their kind of seat in the top four depended on so many factors that wasn't up to them as well. If New Zealand
But
is,
I have a different view on this, Roshni. For any team to be in the top four in the world, you can't be your destiny can't be dependent on somebody else's hand. I mean, Ben Stokes did write in his book
no,
the other day
definitely,
that he was
definitely.
surprised Dhoni didn't take his
Yeah,
chances and blah
yeah,
blah
yeah,
blah.
yeah,
And then
yeah, yeah.
the Pakistanis again went back to where they were a year ago and saying that, oh, India fixed the game. My point is, if you're good enough,
Yeah, no, for
if you
sure,
are
for
good enough,
sure.
you should not be
You would, yeah.
dependent on the others.
Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah, yeah.
them to say that India lost on purpose to England because they did not want Pakistan to go through is
Hmm.
plain stupid.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
definitely. I
India
mean,
also
things
lost
like
the
that, yeah,
momentum after losing to England.
exactly,
India
exactly.
also lost the momentum while they
Yeah,
lost to England. So for Pakistan, I think I was there in 2017 when they beat India in the Champions
yeah,
Trophy final.
yeah,
India had beaten them badly in the league game,
yeah,
and we were overconfident. We lost the
yeah,
finals to
yeah, yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
And then Pakistan celebrated that victory for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, still
I
celebrating.
I was on many of their news channels, and they would beat the Indians up,
Yeah,
drum up their victory, which was fine.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But I would always tell them that your team has played well. You should enjoy the victory, not just berate the Indians. Because
Yeah.
I knew that for Pakistan to improve, they've got to improve. They can't sit back on their laurels.
Hmm.
It's a fantastic team. When I was younger, in the 80s and the 90s, millennium, Pakistan were a super side. They had stars.
Yeah,
And we used to be in awe of Pakistan.
yeah,
But times changed.
yeah.
Times changed.
Times change,
Uh,
definitely.
Times changed, and India are where they are now because of the system. And
Hmm.
Pakistan, unfortunately, have been left behind because there is no system there. They had individual brilliances, But in modern times now, individual brilliances do not matter.
Hmm.
You've got to be a team. I mean, Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma could not win you a World Cup. They
Yeah.
could not.
Yeah.
For all their individual brilliances, they could not win you a World Cup. So
Yeah.
for you to do well at the international level, you got to have a
Yeah.
good, solid base of, talented youngsters who perform well.
Yeah.
So I really have never bought this suggestion of Pakistan having been good, but not making the cut. If you're good, you had to make the cut. Before the World
Okay.
Cup, every person would say, Roshni, that the top four teams would be England, India, Australia, and New Zealand.
Yeah.
It turned out to be these four.
Hmm.
So Pakistan, I don't
Yeah,
know if they finished
definitely.
fifth or they finished eighth, but they did not play that well to be in the top four. I mean, I've been a huge Pakistan fan, and I'm saying that because for them it's just an excuse, एक बहाना है. ओ जी हम तो इसलिए बाहर हो गए क्योंकि इंडिया हार गया था इंग्लैंड से. If the world doesn't move like that, if
Yeah.
they had beaten India in the league games, if they'd beaten other teams, they would have qualified. But this was maybe the sixth World Cup that Pakistan lost to India. So there must be something wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
No, definitely.
I believe Babar Azam is good, but the captaincy can make him, it can also break him.
Yeah, I mean, especially him
Leading a
getting,
team like Pakistan is
exactly,
not going to be easy for
exactly.
him.
Yeah. So I mean, now, he has become the ODI captain. So we'll see, how that, because he's still young. So I mean, getting that captaincy responsibility, hopefully it doesn't take away from the talent
Yeah,
he
so
has with
Gaurang
the
just
bat
said
as
that
well.
Pakistan finished seventh. If if he's talking about Pakistan, they finished
I
seventh.
don't think they were
So if they'd
seventh.
finished a close fifth,
They were fifth.
then
They were
they could
fifth.
have, yeah,
Yeah,
they would know. I think
they
they were
were,
seventh.
I can check, but I'm pretty sure they were fifth because I remember I guess I would have to look, but
Maybe,
yeah. Yeah.
maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. But no, I mean, yeah, that's definitely a good point. I mean, one of the reasons I think that I have been a fan is definitely because of, Babar Azam especially. I think the way, in the past year, just what he's done. But obviously, getting that captaincy responsibility for two formats is definitely something that will be
Sadiq is saying they
interesting.
were fifth.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
I'm pretty
Sadiq,
sure it was fifth.
I'm not very sure.
Yeah,
I
so I
I really
people are
don't know.
saying fifth, so yeah.
Yeah,
But anyways,
fifth.
now if we talk back to that media side, so I remember back in the days, you would get to even travel with the team sometimes. The whole kind of media and the team was like a different story than it is now. So how do
Oh,
you
it
think
was a
it's
different
changed?
world then. It was a different
Exactly. So
world
how
then.
do you think and why has it changed? Because now it's like players also fear
I think
media.
the change happened uh, maybe in the last 7 8 years.
Okay.
It also coincided with the fact that the senior players uh, quit playing cricket. I mean, players like Saurav, Anil Kumble, Rahul Dravid, Lakshman, Sachin Tendulkar,
Yeah.
even Harbhajan Singh. So these guys slowly started going out, and they used to be very friendly. So what happens is that I think it would have been a tradition where the baton is passed from one generation to another.
Yeah.
So the media and the players, the media and the players. But once this chain broke, I think the newer set of your leadership did not want it that way.
Yeah.
So they have protocols in place. I mean, it's not as if you can't talk to the players. You've got to go through the BCCI, which is a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
You've got to go through the managers, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But again, you know, you can look at it either which ways. I suppose there are stars in India who do not need to be on television every day.
Yeah.
But there are regular India players who are never on television.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 years ago, you had the stars and you had the lesser stars.
Yeah.
So everybody would be doing something or the other. The media would be covering them. Now they don't want the media to cover it, but they reveal their personal lives through Instagrams and Twitters and this and that. So
Yeah.
any more, Roshni?
Yeah, no, definitely. I was just thinking if you were finishing your thought. But now, so I did have, Smith Patel, who's from USA. He's actually a Crick Plus correspondent for USA. So anything with the USA cricket and the matches they play. So he asked, so now, many media houses have kind of stopped sending anyone to matches, whether it be foreign matches, bilateral matches. Usually they'll stick to, the main kind of tournaments, ICC tournaments and like that. So what do you think new generations will have to face, difficulties where they can't go to the match, they can't be
I think
there?
the primary reason for that, Roshni, is like you said, the while the media travels, uh, not getting interviews or other stuff from within the dressing room kind
Yeah,
of bars you,
yeah,
and uh, it also has coincided with the fact that the economy has gone down. The
yeah,
economy has gone down.
yeah,
There are uh, channels in India who cannot afford to keep sending people overseas for 30
exactly.
days or 50 days or 60
Yeah,
days. Costs are huge. The dollar is becoming expensive. Unfortunately for us in India, maybe good for you in the US.
yeah,
So all these things, maybe it's like a cycle. You know, there was a time when we would send four people to Zimbabwe on an irrelevant one-day series in Zimbabwe. We would send
yeah,
four correspondents. But now things have changed, and the media will face a huge channel post coronavirus.
yeah,
Once the economy dries up,
definitely.
and it has already dried up, the first thing that gets impacted is your advertisement.
Hmm.
And your mainstream media is dependent on advertisement.
Yeah,
So once you pick the crumbs, you don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what would the world be post coronavirus. So I would call it the spoils of the war.
yeah,
Uh, would there be money? Would there be human lives? We don't know.
yeah,
You won't have even one person in the world who can put his finger on something and say this is how it is going to be. Nobody knows
exactly.
the
No
script.
one knows. No one knows.
So right now, I don't think channels or media will send reporters at least for the first 12 months, and
Okay,
that is also because 14 days in quarantine would also make for your costs to spiral up.
exactly. Yeah.
So that is going to be difficult.
Yeah, definitely. And since Gaurang has been watching a lot, so Gaurang Gupta had asked, so he said he's been a fan of you since Fifth Standard. He's been watching, all your shows and everything. And he asked, was there anyone that kind of inspired you? Was there any, during your young days, any journalist or anyone that kind of inspired you or you looked up to?
See, till I became a journalist, I didn't know what journalism
Okay.
was. Even
Yeah.
though when I was 7 or 8, I would read newspapers, I would read sports magazines, and I used to play cricket, so I would watch cricket.
Yeah.
I never knew that I would become one. But maybe destiny had some way of preparing me to become a journalist. It happened subconsciously. Once I became a journalist, like I told you, I started off with the Indian Express, and Mr. Shekhar Gupta was the editor in chief. And I would dare say that the man had something in him to bring out the best in anybody.
Yeah.
Of course, people in authority have their own instinct and they back their instinct. So there are a few lucky ones like me who he backed, and there would have been others he didn't back. So for me, Shekhar Gupta was the right kind of mentor
Yeah.
that I needed at
Yeah.
that point in time.
Yeah. And now, I mean, you've become an inspiration to, so many for me
I
as well.
I,
So
I don't know.
yes, you
I'm not
have.
very sure
So
about
many
that.
people have messaged me and were, also like, can I join the live and this and that? And, you have that. You definitely have, that fan following and everything that, and a lot of, aspiring journalists that aspire to become, you basically. So what are some tips you would give to them? Because that's definitely there.
Just be honest to your own profession. I
Yeah.
think you know, like they say, don't cheat your own profession.
Yeah.
Be honest and give your best. I'm not saying that for 24 hours in a day you are switched on. Of course, if you don't switch off, you can't switch on again. But whatever you do, give your best and balance, focus. I don't know how to explain them. For everybody, balance would be a different
Yeah.
connotation.
Yeah.
Focus would have a different connotation.
Yeah.
You got to read a lot. I mean, for a cricketer, it's simple. He's got to work on his fitness, he's got to work on his skill.
Yeah.
So for you also, you work on your skill, you read a lot, you watch a lot, and it's not just about speaking on the game. You should also know the nuances of the game.
Yep.
Let's say hypothetically, when India lost that semi-final to New Zealand. So while we were there, we could have spoken about the tragedy that had happened. But if you'd known history of the game, if you'd known certain past instances, you could have drawn up a comparative study,
Yeah.
which might have interested your viewers even more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is what, you, for anybody, for any younger uh, journalist or aspiring journalist needs to do is to read a lot
Yeah.
and to be aware of what a particular history has in
Yeah.
that subject. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not saying that for you to be a cricket journalist, you got to be the encyclopedia in cricket, but you
Yeah.
still got to know the relevance of Vijay Hazare.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
still got to know that there was a cricketer called Subhash Gupta.
Yeah.
You would still need to know the relevance of 25th June 1983 and
Yeah.
certain other things.
Yeah.
So you need to be in line with what has happened,
Yeah.
and you must also know what is happening now.
Yeah. So, when you spoke about this, when you asked me, what is something that I learned in this past year, another thing I have learned and I'm trying to work on is that I think for me, being from America, one, and then mainly, I mean, I'm mainly targeting basically the Indian targets because, when you look at crickets, when you look at fans, a majority of them are Indians, whether it be, David Warner's, post he puts on Instagram, if you see comments, it's mainly Indians, mainly
Hmm.
Desi communities as well. So for me, I've realized that how hard that is going to be and how challenging that is because I get people who may like me. I get people who think, my accent is fake or I'm from India and I'm trying to, personify this other accent. And people don't realize that, I am from America. Or sometimes people, I remember when I went to New Zealand, I was doing stories for Crick Tracker. So I remember the first post, it was like, why do you have a girl? People don't realize that I have a passion for cricket. It's not that, I want to be on TV or anything like
You
that.
know, that's the first quality that I would look at in any youngster. Does he or she have the passion?
Yeah.
Skills come later on.
Yeah.
You have the skill, but you don't have the passion, you're of no good.
Yeah.
You have the passion, then you would want to learn.
Exactly.
Any person, any field, not just journalism, any
Yeah.
field.
Yeah.
If you've got the passion, you would want to learn and do well.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you know a lot of things and you don't have the passion, you would probably want to unlearn also.
Yeah.
So having the passion is the first and the foremost thing.
Yeah. But I realized, I have to become so thick-skinned that I can't let things people say that get to me, especially
Yeah,
that's
and
there.
especially with the social media. But
Exactly. That's changed everything.
Viren Sehwag once told me, he said, ये जो social media होता है ना, ये लिखने के लिए यूज करना चाहिए, पढ़ने के लिए नहीं.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So whatever you want to
Very
write on
true.
social media, Twitter and this and that, write.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
don't look at the feedback.
Yeah.
Don't look at the response. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what he
It is
told me
true. I
because
mean, that is the thing with social media
or you've
there.
got to be very, very thick-skinned.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is
But
definitely there. I think,
and cricket is one thing, Roshni, that especially with the Indians and the Pakistanis and even Sri Lankans, you can't fool any.
yeah.
You can't fool them.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the game inside out.
Exactly.
So everybody would scrutinize you or me or any other journalist with the kind of knowledge that one has.
Hmm.
So you'll be based on their own assumptions.
Yeah.
So for that, one mistake and you're gone.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So let's go into some rapid fire to make things kind of interesting. So who has been your all-time favorite cricketer?
Sandeep Patil. Have
Okay.
you heard of him?
I've heard, but I wouldn't know, I haven't seen him play or wouldn't know
Not
much
too many
about him.
people would have heard of him. He was a star in the 80s. He was member of the 83 winning team also. Could have done better, but he was my
Hmm.
favorite cricketer ever
Okay.
since I was a child.
Definitely. So what has been your worst travel experience? Obviously traveling so much, when you have to kind of travel, but has there ever been an
2007 World
instance
Cup
where
in
you've,
the Caribbean, West Indies, I think was
okay,
the experience in terms of the way India
yeah,
lost. I mean, it
okay,
was a fantastic tour. I was there for 2 months. and that was my second tour of the West Indies. But
Yeah.
because India lost in the very first round within the first 5 days, I
Yeah.
think that was very tragic.
Okay, definitely. What's been your favorite country to visit? You know, so you travel all over. Is there a country that you love going to?
England,
England? Yeah, for me too.
New Zealand. I loved Pakistan. I've been there 3 times,
Oh wow, okay.
and certain Caribbean countries, Antigua, Jamaica,
To many countries, yeah, definitely.
Barbados,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, England I love going to. I mean, it's one of the closer places, but I've been there so much
even
and I think
Australia.
yeah.
Australia, the first time I went to Australia as a journalist, I didn't realize what hit me. I found them very rude. The second time when I went there, I realized they don't do it on purpose. The third time when I went to Australia, I actually fell in love with the place and the people.
Yeah.
So Australia can hit you hard, but in terms of cricket, I think Australia is also one place where you need to imbibe that experience because
Mm-hmm.
they've got huge stadiums, unlike England. They've got
Yeah.
huge stadiums, the kind of crowds and the noise that they make. They don't make that noise in England, but in
Yeah.
Australia,
Not even
if
in
they
New
get
Zealand
after you,
either.
there's no hiding place.
Yeah, I loved watching matches in New Zealand. So I was there for, both the test series. And I think
I know.
my favorite crowd was New Zealand. I'm not a type of person who likes, so much. I mean, obviously it's different. India matches were so intense for me.
Yeah,
But the New Zealand crowd was definitely something. I mean, the people there, they're just so nice, so friendly that I loved
true.
going to New Zealand. You haven't been to America though, have you? Or have you been?
Once I have
Once?
been
Okay.
to not for cricket.
Yeah.
I was there in 2006.
Okay.
Just two cities, DC and New York,
Okay.
and I spent a few days there, but
Yeah.
not too much.
Yeah, I think
This has been
America can
what,
hit hard
14 years ago.
as well. I mean, depending on the experience you get. And I mean, the thing with America is, I mean, when you travel to all these other countries, they're a lot more beautiful
Yeah,
than, what we see in America. I mean, America is not known for really tourist attractions. I mean, you have the places like New York and that are known, but it's not comparable to, anything you would see in Europe or other countries. So
yeah.
definitely. What's your favorite food?
My favorite, I eat anything and everything. I'm not a foodie, to be very honest.
Okay.
It's not foodie is not part of my bio. I
Okay.
eat everything. I eat Indian, I eat Thai, I eat Chinese, I eat this, I eat that. There are certain things I don't eat, I don't like, and those are very typical things. Uh, Ghia, tori, tinde, these things I don't like to eat. I don't know.
Okay.
And I've just turned vegan
Yeah, I did see that.
last 1 week. I think today is Sunday, so I've completed a week being
Yeah.
a vegan, and let me see how long can I keep doing this.
Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite movie? So is there a favorite all-time movie?
Sharabi, I don't know again if you would know of this movie.
No.
Amitabh Bachchan and Jay Prada starred in that movie. This was
Okay.
1984. I've also liked DDLJ a lot.
Yeah,
Plus
one of my favorites.
B.R. Chopra 60s movie Waqt. These
Okay.
three movies I can watch any day.
Okay. And then, so are you a dessert type of person? I know you're not foodie, but meetha pasand hai? If so,
I'm a
favorite
Punjabi.
dish.
I'm a typical Punjabi, but and I've got sweet tooth. But last 1 year, I've really cut down on sweets and everything.
Okay.
I used to be I I had two sweet tooth teeth to say, but now I've really cut down on sugar.
Okay. Well, it's telling me I think I have 50 seconds left, so why don't I let you give a last message to everyone that's
No, I would
watching?
want people to support Roshni. And like you said, I really could empathize with you when you said that there are people who say, oh, you are a girl. Why do you want to be a journalist? No, I don't think that should be a bar. And I would want people to support you, encourage you. Because if you've got the passion, Roshni, then you can reach anywhere. I mean, you can go places. It's just that you would also need to prepare yourself, read a lot,
Yeah.
read a lot, and you'd be there.
Yeah.
You learn every day.
Definitely. Yeah, no, that is definitely one of the big things. So definitely, I want to thank you so much, for giving me all this time. Finally we got this chance. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to, be
Thanks,
able to
Roshni, and
talk to
take
you.
care. Take
Yeah,
care of you.